Do you suffer from depression, or does somebody that you know suffer from depression? It is something that will affect approximately 1 in 3 people in their lifetime. And when you think about it, that's rather a large amount of people on the planet struggling with low mental health. So what I wanted to talk about today was depression, what it is, how it presents, and a way of recovering from depression, or ways of recovering from depression. So to describe depression, it's really about mentally and physically being exhausted. You could be trying too hard and feeling defeated, losing hope. And often there is something that is threatening us when we are feeling depressed, something that affects us in our life. So that could look like having sleep problems, high emotions, or very withdrawn, very irritable or can't sit still, very low mood. What used to feel good in life no longer feels good. You may have concentration problems. You may have memory issues. You may feel super anxious, or you could even feel so bad that you can't even get out of bed. So the cycle of depression, according to Tyrrell and the research that he's done, looks like this. So if you imagine sort of a circle. So it starts with overdreaming, where you're having too much REM sleep, which is where you're pretty much on the surface. So sleep is supposed to sort of drop down, where you're in REM as you go down, and then you go into a deeper sleep where you get very effectively rested, and then naturally through the night you come up and you'll probably have more dreams than normal at that point, and then sink back down into a deeper sleep again, and then come back up when you wake up in the morning. So this leads to tiredness and feeling exhausted by morning if this is a continuous cycle. This then leads on to depressive, negative thinking styles. And then that goes into rumination, where a person will repeatedly dwell on negative feelings or past events, the cause, the consequences, and they won't have a solution. And every person, when they have a problem, their brain naturally searches for a solution. So this then leads to feeling stuck with no solution, and the cycle of depression continues. A lot of people that fear that they may be depressed, or know that they may feel that it's a weakness. I am weak to be depressed. But anybody can be depressed, even the strongest of people. Look at Winston Churchill, leader of the country during the World War, and really struggled with what he called the black dog. So anybody can be depressed. People may feel that if they need to seek help in the form of medication, that makes them weak. They may feel ashamed to ask for help. And these are all barriers that will stop somebody from being able to get the help that they need. If you do talk about how you're feeling, if you're feeling very low, then it's a massively courageous thing to do. It takes a great deal of strength to ask for help. You're not weak if you're depressed, you're exhausted. And there's a big, big difference. So how do you recover from depression? Well, many people will say, well, all you need to do is, and then stuff like, all you need to do is see more people, be more engaged in things, do the things you like, go on holiday, have a rest. But depression recovery isn't that simple. You need to change your thinking and your behavior in order to come through depression. And if somebody says only you can change your behavior or your thinking and nothing else, that's not helpful, especially when you're depressed. It's really unhelpful. You will feel like you're stuck. You will feel that potentially you're weak if you can't find the solution. This is where talking therapy comes in. So talking therapy is particularly good to help people that don't want to go down the medication route to find a solution to their problem. And you may or may not recognize when your depression started. It's helpful if you can recognize when it started, because it could be that it's a particular time in your life, and that can come from changes in your life. But it may be that you don't know what's causing your depression because you're not aware. And so the point of therapy, talking therapy, is to to help you to change the way that you think about things, to come away from rumination. And that will then lead to a change in behavior. And when you think about what depression is caused by, it can be so many things. It can be changes in life, like moving home, changing your job, losing a job. It can be the loss of a loved one, a pet, freedom, loss of independence. It can be because you've retired and it's a huge change. It could be that you have left home to go to university, or you're a parent whose child has gone to university and has left home. It could be because you're poorly. It could be because you've had a child. There are so many reasons, and these are just a few. So depression recovery stages will look like needing to know what is going on for you, an awareness of what is happening. You may not know that, but with talking to a therapist, you will find where in your life it began, probably. And when you think about being in a low mood, not feeling like you can do anything, you're not really going to be aware of your needs. So it's about having an awareness of what your needs are and being able to then identify what will help meet those needs. Is it other people that can help meet those needs with you, or is it something that you can do for yourself? Another part of the recovery will be looking at the 4 pillars of health. And the 4 pillars of health are rest, diet, exercise, and sleep. And changing your behavior around some of the 4 pillars of your life will probably be a big part of that too. When you're depressed, you will probably not eat very well. And that might look like putting bread in the toaster rather than cooking a meal, because that seems like the easiest thing and it's the quickest way of doing it. You may not even realize that you're hungry sometimes, and so miss meals. You may not be drinking enough water. You may not be going out for a walk or even doing any of the exercises that you've done in the past that have made you feel really good. Your sleep will be affected. So you may find that you go to bed late, really late, and then you don't get up until later. Or when you do get up, you're so exhausted that you want to go back to bed, and maybe you nod off in the day. Your exercise routines will be messed up, and it's really important to change your behavior when it comes to the 4 pillars of health to help you recover. You need fairly good nutrition, you need a routine of exercise, you need to rest, and you need good sleep. Resting can look like sitting still, watching television. It could be reading a book. It could be that you go to the cinema with friends. It could be that you maybe do some crafting if you like doing creative things. That's the way that your body can rest. Sleeping is a very different part of the 4 pillars of health, so it is a separate thing to rest. Another thing to look at will be increasing your ability to do things. When you're depressed, getting out of bed, getting up, having a shower, having breakfast, going to work, you may only be able to manage those things. Some people are so depressed that they can't even do that. So it's about changing the behavior around completing tasks. If you get out of bed, make the bed. And if that's the one task that you complete in a day, that's good, that's a start. And then move towards getting out of bed, making the bed, having a shower or bath, getting dressed, starting your day. It's all about building in routines and using those opportunities to complete small tasks so that you feel that you're offering yourself something more than I can't. It's about changing the way that you think so that you learn I can. A big part of depression recovery is to be really compassionate with yourself. There are lots of reasons for depression. Many of them I've not mentioned, but many I have. It's not about knowing what is going to happen. Self-compassion is about understanding what you're going through right now. It's not about judging yourself and saying, come on, you're being ridiculous. Oh, you must think I'm ridiculous. Oh, I feel so stupid because I can't even remember what that conversation was about. These are really difficult parts of depression. Compassion is going to help you to say, it's okay that I can't remember what that conversation was about. It's about understanding that there are going to be some days where you can't have a conversation with somebody, and that's okay. It's about trying again the next day, or even saying to somebody, look, I'm really sorry, I didn't really take that in. Self-compassion is about offering yourself the nice, kind voice, being your own best friend, so that you can stop battling with yourself, judging yourself, letting that inner critic that is telling you how daft you are, how silly you are, how crazy it must be to look like you because you're depressed. It's about calming down that inner critic and putting something else in place to say, it's okay, this is tough right now. I know I can do it, but it may not feel good. This is tough right now. I don't want to go out to buy food from the shop, but I know I need to. It's okay that it's difficult, but I'm going to try. It's about being kind to yourself. And it's really important to offer that to yourself as much as you can, as much as you would somebody else. So when we think about recovery from depression, we've spoken about the 4 pillars of life. Exercise is a big part of that. When you exercise, it changes the way that your body feels. It changes the energy in your body. It changes the blood flow. It changes your breathing. It changes the chemicals whizzing around your body. So particularly if you do something like a jog, going for a run, going for a walk, doing anything that raises your heart rate, that will create a chemical reaction and your happy hormones will be released. That can be really beneficial when you're feeling low, but accessing it when you feel really low feels impossible. So it's about trying to do something that builds in that memory of, yeah, I know it makes me feel better, so I need to keep trying. So going for a walk is a really good solution. It doesn't have to be a huge walk. You don't have to climb a mountain. It can be literally about walking to your nearest beautiful countryside place. Now, if you're living in a city, that might not be possible. So can you go to a place where there is nature, as in there are trees growing? You can see some plants. You know, it might be that your window box is full of plants. It might be that from the view of your flat, you can look out and see the horizon full of trees. You might have to drive to a place to find just a little park. But if you're lucky, like I am, where I live in Hampshire, and we have got plenty of places that we can go to, whether you drive or you can walk to. I'm quite lucky. I've got a meadow with a stream. I've got, I can drive to a place where there's a forest. I can walk to a pond, which is a huge pond, and there's lots of lovely things to look at. So it's about finding a place where nature is. And that might take a little bit of effort, but it will be worth it. Going for a walk where there's anything nature, you can be in it, you can focus and you can be mindful about where you are. There's a lot of research that shows that when you engage in nature, so you go for a walk where there is nature and you engage in it, you think about where you are. So notice what you can see, notice what you can hear, notice the things that smell different, notice the things that grab your attention. It could be that there are some birds. Watching the birds, you're bringing yourself into that moment, and that's a very mindful practice, being in the moment. It stops you from ruminating, it stops you from worrying, it stops you from challenging yourself and criticizing yourself. When you are in the moment, your focus is completely taken up for a few seconds, and that's a really good thing. There's a lot of research to suggest that walking in a forest or a wood is really beneficial in raising your mood, raising the serotonin levels. Just by looking at the canopy, listening to the leaves if the wind is blowing, touching the bark of the trunk, listening to your footsteps. Can you hear them? If you're in a forest full of pine trees, the chances are that you'll be walking on a very soft bed of pine needles, and that will kind of dull down the noises that your feet make. So it's really beneficial to go out into nature and have a good walk. Changing thinking patterns comes from seeing things through a different lens. And when you're talking to a therapist or even talking to your friends, you might find that they can bring in a slightly different way of looking at something or reframing it so that you can then learn how to start thinking differently. When you start thinking differently, you will feel different. And when you feel different, you will behave differently. And it's a real formula to encouraging depressive feelings and thinking to dissipate and to become easier. When we worry, what we're worrying about potentially is out of our control, and we naturally are looking for a solution. But unfortunately, when you ruminate, very often you can't find a solution. What will happen is you will judge yourself. So these are all things to help you to find a way forward, and talking therapy will offer that. However, for some people, they may feel that they can't afford talking therapy. They don't want to talk to somebody about it because this can lead to feeling weak, shame, feeling less than. Again, it can happen to anybody, and it isn't a weakness, it is exhaustion. So it's really important to remember that if you can, talking to somebody is very, very helpful. But you may feel that things are so bad and you may want to go to the doctor, which is absolutely appropriate. And they may suggest that you take antidepressants. So depending on what the diagnosis might be, if it's depression, then antidepressants will probably be suggested. And there will be a time frame that it will be recommended that you start taking them for, have a review, continue, maybe have a higher dosage if it's not quite enough. And people report that within about 6 weeks, some people say that they feel a difference. Some people say they don't feel anything. And when you have a review, your doctor may decide that you need an increase in the dosage. By about 12 weeks, you would expect to feel something different, a sense that something's changed. If you don't, then again, the doctor will review with you and then maybe change the medication. There are lots of different types of antidepressants, and depending on the symptoms that you're presenting with, will probably depend on the type of antidepressant that you are prescribed. You might want to go down the route of medication and talking therapy, and that's a great way of sort of encouraging your future self to have the ability to come off the medication if your doctor thinks that that's a good idea. And sometimes medication can give a person the ability to access talking therapy, and that can be really beneficial, because sometimes talking therapy feels, for some people, depending on their depression, it's not quite enough. So that is a discussion around what is depression and what can you do to recover from depression. So I hope that's helped. There are lots of resources available to help somebody to read up about it, to be informed about what depression looks like, and I will share those through the month. But I think it can be incredibly challenging to overcome depression. And it's a difficult thing to understand. If you're witnessing somebody who is depressed, you may think that they're a bit flaky. You may think that they're not reliable. You may think that they're not trying hard enough to come through it. So if you are living with somebody who's depressed, or you know a person that you're close to that's depressed, try and be compassionate with them. Try and offer them the lifeline that they need without putting the pressure on. And if you're the person that is feeling depressed and you feel that pressure is coming from other people, but you don't know what to do because the people that you've relied on no longer have the stamina to sit and listen, then perhaps therapy would be a good place to start. So if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to contact me. You can reply in a message to this post, or you can go to my website and find my details. I hope it helps.